Good morning, animal science. It's October 15th, and we are going to start talking about blood. Yes, this is the transport medium of the body, 8% of our total body weight. In most females, it's about 5 liters, and men, it's about 5.5 liters. The difference typically is in the size and weight of the individual. Now, if we're talking about our horses have 40 liters of blood, which means that when we see our horse get injured and we think there's been a huge blood loss, don't panic because they have a lot more blood than we do. This blood is super important. It carries electrolytes, hormones, nutrients. So we talked about the proteins and the amino acids along with the glucose, minerals and vitamins that travel in our blood when we were talking about digestion. If you look at this hematocrit, we can see that this is just that level of erythrocytes, platelets, white blood cells, and plasma as you get your blood spun down or tested. Here's several of these, and you can see normally we should have about 45% of that in red blood cells or erythrocytes. If we're anemic, that level drops to about 30%. If we have polycythemia, we would increase our red blood cells, or we'd have too many, and that can cause some of the same issues. Dehydration, the whole level of that blood goes down, so make sure you're drinking enough fluids and staying hydrated. Extremely important. If we're looking at the components of blood, we have leukocytes, which are white blood cells, erythrocytes, which are red blood cells, thrombocytes, which are platelets. So when we are going through this, there are several different white blood cells that are shown across our screen. We have neutrophils, eosinophils, basophils, monocytes, lymphocytes. There are several others that work in the immune system that aid in antibody production also, but these ones are generally the ones that will do the first attack on any foreign invader like bacteria that comes into the body, and we need to help our immune system out. That is our secondary immune system. Obviously, the erythrocytes are the ones that are aiding in oxygen movement through our blood system because of the hemoglobin. And platelets, we need platelets if we have need of clotting, things like that, if we have a cut or a wound. All right, so here's our red blood cells. Red blood cells, very, very important. The hemoglobin in the red blood cell is what attaches and carries our oxygen throughout our body. And we talked about oxygen and how important it was to have oxygen when we were talking about ATP formation, and we were in the electron transport chain. We also know that red blood cells have antigens, and that is what is carrying for our blood type and for our Rh factor. So hopefully all of you know your blood type and what your Rh factor is, because we're going to do some fun, exciting things on Monday in lab that have to do with blood type and our Rh factor. Red blood cells live somewhere around 90 to 120 days. The dead ones are removed by the spleen, which you got to look at externally and internally a spleen, as we did our digestive dissection last Monday. So the spleen is removing all of those dead red blood cells, filtering them out. The red blood cells contain no nucleus, no ribosome, but hugely important. Erythropoiesis is the making of red blood cells. This happens in our bone. The red bone marrow is where we make these. Obviously, as we make more red blood cells, we increase our oxygen carrying capacity. Very, very important. There are several anemias that happen with red blood cells and because of red blood cells. One of them just happens to be sickle cell anemia. This is a sickle cell, so it is a deformed red blood cell where it is not going to carry oxygen as efficiently as it would if it was normal. I went ahead and listed a few more anemias that can happen because of your red blood cells. Obviously, iron is a big one, which is a nutritional anemia. You can read down through these from genetic defects to bone marrow deficiencies to low erythroproteins, blood loss, hemorrhagic anemia, which we've all probably had cases where we were a little panicked about that when we had an injury or a cut and we had big blood loss. Hopefully those platelets were doing their jobs and they restricted blood flow and clotting factor came into play. But those are a few of the different anemias that we could run into because of our red blood cells. Hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is it's a four-folded protein that holds the heme, which is what is attracted to the oxygen. Our iron portion of that is a 4-heme group that binds with oxygen. Oxygen is poorly soluble just in blood. It is the hemoglobin that is what is attracted to it, and that's what carries our oxygen. Now, without that attraction of our oxygen to our hemoglobin, and you can see our hemoglobin here, and it's holding oxygens, and so if it's in the lungs, it's getting high oxygen, and then it gets transported to the rest of the body. And the cool part is even though it's attracted and can hold oxygen, it would prefer carbon dioxide. So when we go to the cells, we know we have carbon dioxide released when we make ATPs. Well, when we release the carbon dioxide, it knocks those oxygens off. We have oxygen then in our cell, which we need for ATP, and off we go with the carbon dioxide back to the heart, back to the lungs, and then we breathe it out, and we have released carbon dioxide. Hopefully we pulled in more oxygens. They then get attracted and attached to our hemoglobin group, and off it goes again. If you look, most of the time we talk about our oxygenated blood as being red, or arterial blood. We know that as blood leaves the heart to the body, it is oxygen rich. And so we call that arterial blood because we go to the aorta and then to the arterial branches that go all throughout the body. The heme group, or the blue venous blood, is the blood coming back from the cells that's oxygen depleted, which is typically in the veins as it comes back to the heart. The only time this is not true is when we are in the pulmonary system, which is from the heart to the lungs, because from the heart to the lungs, when it leaves the heart, it is oxygen poor in an artery, gets oxygen rich, and back to the heart in a vein, which is oxygen rich. The rest of the time throughout the body, it holds true. So, hemoglobin bonds to oxygen, more attracted to CO2, so it makes a great exchange when it gets to the cellular level. We talked about the antigens on the surface of these red blood cells. This is what gives us our blood type, which is what we want to talk about more on Monday, but I'm going to give you a brief overview here. There are 3 alleles. We talked about those. There's a dominant A, there's the dominant B, and there's the recessive A. Well, depending on the combination of these 3 alleles, it will tell us what our blood type is. Obviously, with the dominant A, if we have the dominant A and a recessive A, we're going to be blood type A. If we have the dominant A and the dominant A, we are blood type A again. The only way for us to get blood type O is to have 2 recessive small a's, because we know we have several different blood types, right? 4 of them. We have blood type A, blood type B, blood type AB, and blood type O, and that's through the combination of these 3 alleles. Here's our blood type A. I mentioned this already. You have these 2 choices. Dominant A, recessive A, and dominant A gives me blood type A. And blood type B, dominant B, recessive A, dominant B, both give me blood type B. I do have a choice of having dominant A and dominant B, which is a codominant situation, and we would end up with blood type AB, which, if you are AB, It means that you are a universal recipient, meaning I can get blood from everybody as long as the Rh factor matches. When we get to blood type O, 2 recessive A's make blood type O. That's the only way to get O, and that's my blood type, which is the best because I'm a universal donor, meaning that I can offer my blood to every blood type that matches my Rh factor, which happens to be positive. Universal donors. That's me. Universal recipient. That is our AB blood type, folks. And we then have to talk about our Rh factor, because we know that even though the blood type matches, there is a second factor that goes along with it. We call it the Rh factor. It was discovered in a monkey, the rhesus monkey. Years and years ago, they did studies on this monkey because they were having one live monkey and then they were having stillborn monkeys after that. So they started studying and they found that if the mother is a negative blood type and the father is a positive blood type and the baby ends up being a positive blood type, then the mother, who is negative, starts building antibodies against the baby that she's carrying because of the blood overlap. Because a negative blood type does not recognize the positive factor. So therefore they think it's foreign and they send their white blood cells and their immune system to build antibodies against it. And usually the first monkey was born alive because there's not enough antibodies to kill it. And the second one is born stillborn. The same factors apply when we get to humans, and in the old days they didn't understand it, and as we move farther into science, we understand that if we have a negative mother, a positive father, we need to pay attention to a thing called erythroblastosis fetalis. And this is exactly what I was talking about. It's the maternal antibodies from the mother that attack the Rh factor. She only sees the Rh factor as being foreign if she is negative and the baby is positive. If she's positive, the father's negative, and the baby's negative, then she doesn't recognize any issue whatsoever, and the baby goes along. If she is negative and the baby is positive, we run into this situation where we build antibodies against the Rh factor, and the babies can be born super jaundice, anemia, and even death. We have figured out how to handle that situation. It's an anti-Rh gamma globulin blocker. And this blocker coats the antigen of the positive Rh cell that's in the baby, and therefore it hides it from the immune system of the mother, and the babies are born perfectly normal. Hopefully this gives you a little insight in on blood typing, and I look forward to our discussion on Monday. If at all possible, try and find out your blood type and maybe a sibling or a parent's blood type for our discussions on Monday. Have a great weekend.